Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Gabriel. In this video, I'll look at February-March 2026 of Information and Communication Technology ICT Paper 1. It's a theory paper. This is 0417/12. Typically, this paper lasts for 1 hour, 30 minutes. According to the instruction, you must answer all the questions in this paper. Answer all questions. Take notes. You are not supposed to use an erasable pen. Do not use correction fluid or tape. Do not write on any barcodes. Take notes of that. Then the total mark for the paper is 80. No marks will be awarded for using brand names or software packages or hardware. So it is advised to use generic terms to answer your question. So let's start with the first question. Question 1. Complete the following sentences. The physical component of a computer are known as the hardware component. Hardware component. So say hardware. Good. Then the next one, the programs for controlling the operation of a computer are known as software. Software. You can see the question starts with a simple question that you can easily answer. A student is making a recording of his voice for a podcast. Explain how, the keyword on how, the student's voice could be recorded on a computer. Explain. Explain is the action word, how the student voice could be recorded on a computer. In this type of question, you have to explain how that can be done. So you can start by saying the students will record their voice by using a microphone to capture the analog sound. A microphone to capture analog sound. Then that is, don't forget, it's a 3-mark question. So that's first point. Then after the microphone has captured the sound, microphone is an input device. Then the sound captured by the microphone will be converted to digital using an ADC, that is analog to digital converter. That is ADC. Okay, because sound is analog, computer is digital. Then after the sound has been converted, then this sound will be stored as a sound file on the computer. And in the appropriate format. Maybe MP3 or WAV or MP3 format. So we have made 3 points here. Then the next one, when his voice has been recorded, the student wishes to listen to it. That is what we call playback. Okay, it has recorded, the sound has been stored on the computer in the appropriate file format. Okay, when the student wishes to listen to it, explain, another keyword, explain the processes that enables the student to listen to the recording of his own voice. So for that playback, we can highlight the following steps for the processes. The first thing is that the voice that has been recorded, stored in a file, will be retrieved from storage. That has been stored, be retrieved. Then after that retrieval, then from the digital format, it will be converted to analog, because the sound is in analog format. Analog. Then It will be output through the what? The output is played through the speakers or headphones. That is basic processes. Then question 3. ROM is a type of internal memory in a computer. State one other type. For a 1 mark question here, say other type of internal memory, and that will be RAM. So you can write random access memory or just write RAM. Okay, good. That is beautiful. The next question, 3B. State two characteristics of ROM. Characteristics of ROM. Number 1, ROM is non-volatile. Is non-volatile. ROM is not volatile, meaning it cannot be modified. Or you say that ROM is read-only. Read-only, cannot be modified. You can as well say that ROM stores firmware, or you say boot instructions, the required instruction for the computer to boot up. So any 2 here will give you the full mark. Then question 4. A computer system can use command line interfaces or dialogue-based user interfaces. Compare the action word here. A command line interface with a dialogue-based user interface. From what we learned in chapter 1, when we learned about operating system, we said operating system can serve as a user interface. So we learned about 4 types of user interfaces. I remember we learned about command line interface, dialogue-based user interface. We learned about GUI, graphical user interface, and gesture-based user interface. Those are the 4 that we learned. But in this question, they want us to compare command line interface with dialogue-based user interface. It used to be command line interface with GUI, but in this case, command line interface versus dialogue-based user interface. And if you look at the mark allotted to it, this is a 6-mark question. So if it's a 6-mark question, you have to give minimum 6 valid points to earn the full mark. So let's go to those 6 points. So let's start with CLI. With CLI, we can say that for CLI, command line interface, okay, we can start by saying that it requires typing commands using a keyboard, all right, to interact with the computer. We can also say that it needs memorization of code or syntax of the instruction. This is keyboard. Okay. Another point we can give is that for CLI, it is faster to use for experts. Okay. And then we can say it uses less memory. It consumes or uses less computer memory. All right. But then for dialogue-based user interface, we can say it uses human voice to give commands to the computer. We can say it is easier to use for physically challenged. Voice activation is used to control devices, and it requires more computer memory for its operation. That is for that. Then the next one, that is question 5. A student is studying the quality of water in a river. The student can analyze the data using a tablet computer or a smartphone. Okay, tablet, computer, or a smartphone. So the keyword here is explain why a tablet computer is better than a smartphone for collecting and analyzing data from the river. Explain why a tablet computer is better. So you consider about the size, about the efficiency. So those are the things you compare them with, in explaining this. So I can say that for it's a 4 mark question. So for tablet computer, tablet computer has a larger screen. And what's the advantage of that, which makes it easier to view data? Okay, you can see the data clearly. Another thing is that because it has a tablet computer has a larger keyboard or keypad, so it makes it to have a better data entry experience. So it is easier to enter data. Okay. Another point you can give is that a tablet computer has a more processing power than a smartphone. Another one you can say is that it has more storage capacity than using a smartphone. You can also say that a tablet computer, it has better multitasking ability. Okay, so please take note of that. Then the next one, question 5b. The student can collect the data using sensors. Sensors are input devices, okay, or collect the data manually and then type it into the tablet computer. So it's either you use sensor, which can be done automatically, or manually having to type in the data. So discuss is the action word, the benefits and drawbacks of using sensors to collect the data. This is another 6 mark question. So we have to be strategic about this. So let's start with the benefits of using sensors. Benefits of using sensor. So I can start by saying, if you use sensor, it brings about automatic data collection. The data collection will be done automatically. Okay. So another benefit is that it gives more accurate data reading or data collection. Okay, good. Then you can say it gives continuous monitoring, or you can say 24/7 monitoring of the river can be actualized using a sensor. Another one is that the recording will be faster using sensor. Okay, then let's go to some of the drawbacks of using sensors. Some of the drawbacks, it is expensive because you need to buy expensive to buy the sensors and other devices that will be needed. It is expensive since sensors will be bought. Okay, then we can say that the sensor may require the sensors may require some calibration. So that's another stress or task. Then using sensor, it requires some technical setup. Technical sets up. Okay. Another benefit you can put is that using sensor, it can be easy to do or to plot the graph of the data collected automatically. That can be done automatically. That's still part of the benefit. So let's go to the next question. Question C. The data collected from the sensors can be stored on the cloud. Okay, it can be stored on the cloud. State the keyword why the data is stored on the cloud rather than being stored on a portable solid state drive. Okay, so let's consider that if it is stored, because it said why the data is stored, if it is stored on the cloud, what are the reasons why it should be stored on the cloud? The data can be accessed anywhere on any devices as long as there is internet connection. Then using it provides automatic backup, which we to remove redundancy. Okay, then another one is that it brings about easy sharing. And share the data with colleagues very easily across the globe. Then there will be no need to buy or carry physical devices. No physical storage devices will be needed. Okay, you can also say it reduces risk of loss of data or damage, not only loss but damage. Okay, good. So any 3 points here will give you the full mark. Then the next question, question 6. A computer contains both antivirus software and anti-malware software. You know, many people use this term interchangeably, which is not perfectly correct. A computer contains both antivirus software and anti-malware software. Explain the differences between antivirus software and anti-malware software. Okay, there are a lot of differences. If you use an antivirus software specifically, again, the main differences are that one, antivirus software specifically removes viruses. Antivirus software detects or removes viruses specifically. So it's specifically for this purpose, to detect, remove, or quarantine viruses. Specifically, that's function of antivirus software. But of course, an anti-malware is broader in its operation, in that it can handle spyware, ransomware, etc. Then another point could be that anti-malware is more comprehensive than antivirus software. Another one is that you can say antivirus software is more specialized than anti-malware software. Okay. Question B, you can say explain why both antivirus software and anti-malware software are needed in the computer. So why do we need the combination of the two on the computer typically? So using the two provides a wider protection for the computer. A wider protection. You can also say that it will be able to handle different threats, different can be covered using the two on the computer. Question 7. Prolonged use of a computer can result in many health issues. That's question 7. Prolonged use of a computer because you're using it for a long time. So one of the health issues is repetitive strain injury, RSI. So the question is, state two possible causes of RSI. Now you are looking at causes of RSI. So let's go to that. Two possible causes of RSI is repetitive typing on a computer keyboard could cause that. Another one is that clicking repetitively on mouse repetitively on a computer mouse could also cause it. Another one that could cause it is long periods on the computer without breaks. Long period use of keyboard or mouse on the computer without breaks could also cause that. So please take note of that. Or poor posture could also cause it. Okay. Then 7B, state 7A II. State two possible strategies for the prevention of RSI. So to prevent RSI, you take breaks at intervals. Take breaks at intervals. Exercise your fingers, move. Exercise your fingers or use ergonomic equipment such as ergonomic mouse, ergonomic keyboard, etc. The word ergonomy itself simply means comfort. Okay, back problems are a health issue. State two possible causes of back problems when using a computer. For back problems, it could be that when you look at screen at wrong height, screen at wrong height, okay, it could be poor sitting posture. Posture could also cause it. Okay. Then what are the strategies for the prevention of back problems? So you can say adjust screen at eye level. Then you can say use of adjustable chair. You can also say correct posture. Being as correct posture. So These are the things that can help prevent back pain. Now let's go to the next question, which is question 8. A company is phasing out its landline telephones and replacing them with a VoIP system. VoIP simply means voice over internet protocol, a set protocol that is used over the internet for voice communication over the internet. Voice communication. So we call it voice over internet protocol. Describe the benefits. The action word is describe the benefits and drawbacks of using a VoIP system. How many mark question is this? This is a 6-mark question. So they're asking for benefit and drawbacks. So we could make it 3 benefits and 3 drawbacks, 4 benefits and 2 drawbacks, or vice versa. Okay, so let's start with the benefits of using a VoIP system. Benefits of using a VoIP system. So number 1 benefit is that you can make cheaper calls. Cheaper calls can be made. We see that with all the WhatsApp call and code that we make these days. Cheaper calls. Then it can bring about video and audio integration. In that same call, you could have audio and video integration in that call. Then it is flexible or mobile. It is flexible or mobile to use it, to use VoIP. Okay. Another one is that since most people now use internet, so it uses internet, so it's something that we can easily get or afford. It uses internet. So let's look at some of the drawbacks. Some of the drawbacks. Point 1, we can say it depends solely on internet for it to work. So if there is no internet, then internet. Okay, then the next one is we can say that the call can have a lot of quality issues. Call quality issues can be experienced depending on the strength of the internet signal. Then another issue or drawback is that it poses some security risk. So any 3 points here, 3 points here, you earn the 6 marks. State 2 types of extended reality. 2 types of extended reality is augmented reality, that is AR. Then virtual reality, that is VR. Virtual reality. So what is simple question 9 is? So the next question, number 10, the principal of Tawara University is considering setting up a group on social media, like having a social media group to communicate with students. Emphasis on that, to communicate with students. Social media has both benefits and drawbacks. So describe the benefit to the university of using social media in this way to communicate with the student. What are the benefits to the university? Benefit to the university, not to the student alone, not to the government, but to the university. So you need to understand the question before you begin to answer. Benefits to the university, we can say number 1 benefit, it brings about instant communication between the student body and the university management. Okay, instant communication. Another benefit is that it has a wide reach or wider reach. Okay. Another one is that it is cost effective. It's not that they need to buy another special devices to make that happen. So anybody that has internet, has access to Wi-Fi, can easily, communicate on the group. It is cost effective. Then there can be easy update from the university to the students body. Easy updates. They can easily drop updates for the students. Okay, maybe updates on change of lesson, change of lecturer, or date of event. You can easily get that. Then they can have more engagement with the students. More engagement with students. Okay, they can have that. And another one that is very important is that you can get feedback almost easily and constantly. Feedback, easy and constant feedback collection. Okay, so any 6 year will give you the full marks. Let's go to question 10b. The university is considering employing a communications manager to monitor the messages placed on a social media, a professional in charge of monitoring, managing the social media group. Explain why it may be necessary to do so. Somebody needs to be in charge of moderating what is happening on the group. So explain why this may be necessary. Okay, let's go to that. Number one, if they have a communications manager, it will be easy to monitor inappropriate inappropriate content. Monitor and filter inappropriate content. Okay. Then another one is that it will make it easy to respond to queries. Okay. Another one is that you'll be able to maintain the university reputation, because not just any content will be allowed. It will be content that is authorized, okay, that will be allowed on the social media group. Maintain the university reputation. Then that will consequently ensure accurate information, accurate and up-to-date information to be disseminated on the platform. So it is very important. So any 3 year will give you the full mark. Question 11. The internet is a type of wide area network. Yes, the internet is a type of wide area network. Describe, that's the action word, describe the characteristics of a wide area network. Characteristics, what are the features of a WAN? So this is a 4 mark question. So point number 1 for characteristics of a wide area network. Point number 1 is that it covers a large geographical area. Another one is that it uses telecom infrastructure. Another one that you can take as features or characteristics is that it connects multiple LANs. Okay, you can say it has lower speed than LAN. Another one is that you can say he has higher latency than LAN. Okay, so it has a higher latency. Okay, so latency simply means delay in signal. So one has that. Okay, state two other types of computer network apart from one. So we can mention LAN, which is local area network. That's LAN. We can mention metropolitan area network, which is MAN. We can also mention personal area network, which is PAN. All right, any two here. Then the next question, question 12. Tawara Books sells books either as an online version or a physical version. Each book has a 5-digit book number and each customer has an 8-digit customer number. So I'm going to highlight the key 8-digit customer number, each book 5-digit book number. Tawara Books uses a database system which contains information about the books it sells. Each record contains the following data: book title, author, book number, type of book which could be online or physical, date book sold, customer number. Design an appropriate online data entry form for just one book. You remember in chapter 7 when we learned system life cycle, we learned about 6 different stages, from the initial understanding of a problem till the implementation and review of a particular node system. So under design stage, one of the things that needs to be designed there is data capture form. So and we learned that data capture form can be online, that is on screen, or paper based. So they have told us that design an appropriate online data entry form. So what we want to design now is an online data entry form. So an online data entry form has some specific characteristics such as navigational button, the submit button, form title, use of drop down menu, radio button, and so on and so forth. So we want to do that in this question. So let's see how to apply the knowledge to this particular question. I know many candidates will see this question and say, oh, this is 6 marks, maybe it is too much. It is not. Or maybe it is difficult. It is not. You see, in few minutes we are going to finish this. So the first thing, since they have told us that design an appropriate online data entry form for one book, so we can give it an appropriate form title. So how do we do that? They have told us Tawara Books uses a data system which contains information about the books it sells. So we could call it Tawara Books information. Okay, so let's design the stuff. So I could come here, increase the title, the font, and I call it Tawara Books information. Okay, Tawara Books information. That will serve as the title of the form. Okay, then they give us some field to use: book title, author, book number, type of book, date book sold, customer number. So if you count this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have about 6 fields to deal with here. So I could do that. Let me see, increase. Sorry. I could do this, so I put it at the center so that it will make sense. So I can use what are the stuff here. So I will reduce this. So out the field. So I have a book title. Maybe book title. I have that book title. Then what else do I have? I have author. So book title, author, what else? Author, book number, then type of book, then date book sold, customer number, then customer number. Okay, good. Then I could put submit button here, like an action button. Submit. Okay, I can put it at the center. Submit. Okay, then I could have draw navigational button, so I can say, okay, let me make this color red so that the color consistency, so I can say this one is next, and I can do previous. Okay, something similar to this. Okay, previous. Then I can now align this to be properly aligned with everything, so it properly align. Okay, good, 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 good. Then they told us that what else? They said book has a 5-digit book number, 5 digits. Since they have told us book number, so I could do 5-digit book number. So I could do it this way. I can use box 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we'll show that the book number will be 5. Which one again? They said customer number has an 8 customer number, so I will align it appropriately. So this could be something like this. So I will give 8 boxes, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Something similar to this. Then for date book sold, I could do that. Okay, let me do type of book, online or physical. Type of book. So I could do checkbox, online or physical. So I could do online, physical. So yeah, I'll type online, and yeah, I'll type physical. Okay, online, physical. Then book title. Did they say any special thing about book title? Book title, you could make it sure, textbooks book title, because that could be long for book title. book title, maybe something similar to this, just something similar to this. Something similar to this because it's long. Okay, since you might be using pencil, you might need to make it straight, more straight than what I am drawing on the screen. Since I'm using mouse to draw it, something similar to this. Then after that, I have my author. So let me move this down a bit so I can align properly. Author. So I'll do something like this for author. Maybe. Okay, good. Author. Then dates, I could have something like this. DD. I could have a peak for date sold. DD. MM. And probably YYY. Maybe something like this. So I will do what color? Let me do color blue to show DD, MM, and show Y, 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 and Y to show the format. So when you do something like this, it does make sense and it looks exactly like what they want you to actually get for this. Dawara books information and this and this. Okay, so this is correct to earn the 6 marks in this. So then the next one, let's look at the next question. An example of the data stored in the date book sold field is 25/02/2025. Validation checks can be carried out on this field. State 2 validation checks that could be carried out on the date field. So we could use format check, just like I used in the stuff. Format check, e.g. maybe DD/MM/YYY. Okay, we could also use range check, maybe between a particular range check, a particular date and another date. We could also make it presence check, that is, it cannot be left empty. Presence check. So you can do that. So then the next question, see, before the new system is designed, the current system must be analyzed. The current system must be analyzed. State 2 research method used in this analysis. If you want to research the current system before the new system is designed, you can use interviews. Interviews can be used. Questionnaire can be used. Sharing questionnaire can be used. You can as well use observation, or you can even use looking at existing documents. Okay, so any of that can be used. Okay, question 13, the very last question. Explain what is meant by computer aided design learning. CAL. So if you ask this question, you can break it down and say computer CAL is the use of computers in learning process, okay, using some interactive learning software which brings about self-paced learning using CAL brings about or ensures self-paced learning. So the learner can learn at their own pace, learning using some multimedia content. Their work can be graded automatically and feedback provided. So by the time you have written that, you would have earned the 3 marks that this question is asking from you. So it is simple. That's how we have come to the end of this question. This is February March 2026 paper. You can use it to prepare for your May June 2026 examination, your October November 2026 examination, theory paper 1 ICT. So this is very simple. If you have any question on this correction or solution I have done, please do not hesitate to drop that